In this video, I'll be trying to prove why I believe Islam is perverted. What do I mean by this? Islam, the religion of it, was influenced by the perverted desires of the so-called Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and was spread through the seduction of promises of carnal desire, in which our tendency to sin of the flesh tempts us, making it appealing to impure men of little knowledge of the divine. To make my point clear, the teachings of the so-called prophet are of vain carnal desires of the flesh. I'll give you 5 reasons why, of many, why I believe this to be an undeniable fact. Reason number 1, the many wives Muhammad. Even 4 wives is immoral, as the Bible states in Matthew 19, 4-6. So they are no longer 2, but 1 in flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate. This is pretty cut and dry. Now Matthew is quoting Jesus, who was referencing Genesis 2:24. How can Muslims say they affirm the teachings of Jesus when they are in direct conflict with him? How can this be so? How can them having 4 wives be okay? Muhammad couldn't even hold to this immoral standard when he had 11 wives at once. We can see this in Surah Al-Ahzab 33:50, where exclusively the Prophet was granted the ability to have more than 4 wives. Quite interesting, if you ask me. No one else could have this. It was just for the Prophet. It was a gift for him. Through historical records from Muslims, we know Muhammad had 11 wives at a single time. Now, who said these things? Where were these revelations coming from? Muhammad himself. Is it not interesting that Allah supposedly revealed these things to Muhammad, such an exemption to him, based in carnal desires of the flesh? And only Muhammad can attest to such a claim, only appealing to self-verification. It is a circular verification. Muhammad is a prophet of Allah. How? Allah told him, and only him so. You are right to be suspicious, because no other person, or even the prophets in the Bible, are allowed such exemptions to sin, as reinforced in Romans 2:11, for God shows no partiality. But why does God show Muhammad partiality? Reason number 2. As Muhammad's child bride said in Sahih Bukhari 660-311, I said to the Prophet, I feel that your Lord hastens to fulfill your wishes and desires. Why would Allah hasten to fulfill the desires of Muhammad? Isn't it weird that the story of Muhammad's revelation of Allah is akin to a man selling his soul to Satan, or a con man lying for personal gain? I mean, he worships Allah, and all he does is gain on earth because of this? The New Testament and the Gospels only talk about rewards in heaven, and not of ones of earth. And Proverbs 11:18 says, a wicked person earns deceptive wages, but one who sows righteousness gets a true reward. A wicked man receives temporal rewards of earth, plunder, sexual immorality, but the righteous man receives ones that are in heaven. Isn't that interesting? My 3rd reason is the so-called prophet and his sexual impurity. The plethora of instances of this fact, excluding the aforementioned multiple wives, as stated by his child bride Aisha in Sahih al-Bukhari 230-232. I asked Aisha about the clothes soiled with semen. She replied, I used to wash it off with the clothes of Allah's messenger, and he would go off to the prayer while water spots were still visible. I heard Suman bin Yasar talking about clothes soiled with semen. He said Aisha had said, I used to wash it off Allah's messenger, and he would go for prayers while water spots were still visible on them. Now this is narrated by Aisha herself. I used to wash the semen off the clothes of the Prophet, and even then I used to notice 1 or more spots left on them. Ew. His companions wrote this about him. Imagine a man who is so constantly soiled with semen that his closest companions felt the need to write about a conversation they had about it, and then being told that this was the so-called holy prophet of Allah, and in any other religion, Muslims would call this behavior out and say it was sexually impure and disgusting. And even more deplorable, he had his child bride scrape the semen off of his garments. And yes, let me finally talk about Muhammad's child bride. Reason number 4, the Aisha dilemma. Got some credit to Inspiring Philosophy, thank you very much. In Sahih al-Bukhari 51:33, it is said, the Prophet married her when she was 6 years old, and he consummated his marriage when she was 9 years old, and then she remained with him for 9 years till his death. That alone is disgusting and deplorable, but let's continue. In Sahih al-Bukhari 61:30, it is said, I used to play with the dolls in the presence of the Prophet, and my girlfriends also used to play with me. When Allah's messenger used to enter my dwelling place, they used to hide themselves, but the Prophet would call them to join and play with me. The playing with dolls and similar images is forbidden, but it was allowed for Aisha at the time, as she was a little girl and not yet reached the age of puberty. So, the Prophet liked to watch little girls play with dolls? His child bride play with dolls? And in Sahih al-Bukhari 33:78, it is said, the messenger of Allah married me when I was 6 and consummated the marriage with me when I was 9, and I used to play with dolls. The obvious, disgusting connotation of this is, he consummated the marriage with her when she was still the age of being able to play with dolls in Islam. So this brings us to the Islamic dilemma. The Aisha dilemma. Either Aisha was past the age of puberty and Muhammad allowed Aisha to sin within Islam, or Aisha has not passed the age of puberty and Muhammad was a pedophile. Absolutely disgusting behavior for what someone would say is the pinnacle of morality. Again, credit to Inspiring Philosophy for this graphic. Watch his video after this one, we still got some more to go for him. Reason number 5, the perverted heaven of Islam. The Muslim belief of heaven is the reward of enjoyment of sinful carnal desire. Why is it your reward is doing something that was sinful or haram on earth? Why would the perfection of human existence just be more desire, more longing of something else? This is a hedonistic idea, never being content, always wanting more, and more. This is the sin. This is the deadly sin of gluttony. In a heaven? Now, why did I come to this conclusion about Islamic heaven? Well, it is said in Sunnah-e-Mahad, Hadith 4337. There is no one whom Allah will admit to paradise, but Allah will marry him 72 wives, 2 from Horus, and 72 from his inheritance from the people of hell, all whom will have desirable front passages, and he will have a male member that never becomes flaccid. What is this verse saying? He'll have 2 people that he created, right? But then you have 70 of them who are inherited of the people of hell. He's saying he will take 70 women from hell so that men can have sex with them, and they'll have a infinite, eternal erection. Ew! What are we talking about here? And it's also said in Surah Al-Naba 33, in full bosoms maidens, equal age. Again, why is it we are only objectifying women and talking about how we will fornicate with some within heaven? The fulfillment of love. It is said in Sahih ibn Hadith 742, and yes, I know pronunciations are off. It's partly because I don't care, and two, he was asked, will we have sexual intercourse in Gehenna? He answered, yes, by the one whose hand my soul is. Intercourse will be done. Daman, when it is finished, she will return pure and virgin again. They are talking about deflowering virgins in heaven, and that they will never be defiled. This is the heaven they speak of mindless fornication, forever and ever. In comparison, what is Christian heaven? We can see what it might entail by what we are said not to do in order to enter it. Since you have been raised with Christ, set your hearts on things above, heaven, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Your minds on the things above, not on earthly things, for you died, and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you will also appear with him in glory. Put to death, therefore, what belongs to your earthly nature: carnal desire, sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, and greed, which is idolatry. And we also see in Galatians 5:17-21, for the desires of the flesh are against the Spirit. Carnal desires are against the Spirit, and the desires of the Spirit are against the flesh. For these are opposed to each other, to keep you from doing the things you want to do. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under that law of the flesh. Now the works of the flesh are evident: sexual immorality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealousy, fits of anger, rivalry, dissension, division, envy, drunkenness, orgies, and things like these. I warn you, and I warned you before, that those who do such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. It is saying that those who commit these works of the flesh will not inherit heaven. So why would heaven be filled with such things? Carnal desires are to be put to death, for such desires are meant to be put away, as they are not of the Spirit. And if you participate in the chase of said desire, then you will not inherit the kingdom of heaven. And what are the works of the flesh the so-called prophet says are good and will be in Jannah, and calls it the divine truth revealed by Allah? Orgies, sexual immorality, and lust. And that's only talking about the sexually impure parts of Islam, and not even speaking about the other fruits of the flesh it exudes. Islamic's apologists' common rebuttal to this is of that if we were made with this carnal desire, why would Allah say it's bad? Why would it be bad if you were born with this desire? This is a bad argument. As I've already pointed out, said carnal desire is called evil, a man-made creation derived from sin. This is like saying a person who desires to murder should murder. Obviously, this is untrue. Also, or if someone were to experience the carnal desire of same-sex attraction, and that they should participate in same-sex relations, those Islamic apologists would say those actions would be sinful, as the Bible opposes it. Both of those arguments. But it would leave out that this works just as well for the twisted sexuality of the Muslim faith. You cannot have it both ways. Either desire is good or it is bad, and we know by the Christian faith that fleshly desire is bad. So, in conclusion, whoopsie. There we go. Exceptions to the law that was already contradictory to the teachings of Jesus, in which they claim to affirm. We got double contradiction here, folks. And that the so-called prophet was constantly soiled in semen. That he had his child bride scrape it off, and that there was conversations recorded in Hadith deemed so important that they were recorded by his companions, that it happened that often that it needed to be talked about. Ew. Muhammad, peace be upon him, either allowed Aisha to commit sin while he watched her commit it, or more likely, Muhammad is a pedophile and enjoyed the fact that she was young. Deplorable. The so-called paradise of Islam is a place of hedonistic, sinful desire in which the Bible contradicts it on every fundamental level of morality. Please like and subscribe if you want more content like this. It really does make a career and passion of this much more viable for me. And Muslims, I know you'll do this or already have done this. But whatever insult you may call me in the comments will be put on a tier list in a future video. And I can't promise that I will blur your names if they're really funny. So be creative and be discerning about what you say. God bless, guys, and that is all. And remember, Shmiya Shmiye, Falalala, Shway.